It would help if I unmuted my microphone, wouldn't it? I could pass that off as an April Fool's joke, but no, I will take credit for my own error in that my microphone was muted. So let me begin again, and hopefully this won't assuage you from continuing on with me. Good afternoon and or morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TEDXcellence, the series in which I explore the off-brand of TED Talks, the brand X, if you will, to see what we might learn of, today at least, sustainability and social justice, whatever that means. And I will begin again, as I had been doing, but had no idea that I wasn't being heard, to say hello to those of you who have joined me this morning. And please do share the stream if you have not already, because YouTube does not respect its content creators lately, and telling anyone that we're actually broadcasting when we broadcast. Tall person, hello. The Dead Kaiser, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Ex-Bubba Hotep, hello. Shio Gorath, hello. Mike Savage, hello. Decode, hello. John Smith, hello. Gulf City Johnny Blaze, hello. Delta Cross, hello. Tarkata, hello. Lurking Gopher, hello. Towels, hello. All right. Well then. What do we have here? Yes. Social justice in relation to sustainability. What does that mean? I don't know, but we're going to find out. And I hope you'll join me. So per usual, I'm going to start the video. Now, I did go to the effort of enhancing the audio of the original. The original audio is a little, what's a good word for it? Dull? That's not speaking to the content of the video. I'm sure it's going to be exciting, but the actual audio itself is a little dull. So I had to boost the bass, as it were, and amongst other things. So again, starts out silent for a moment because of the adjustments I made, and then the guy starts speaking. So you guys tell me if you can hear it. Everything's fine, and we'll proceed, because God knows I already screwed up the beginning of this stream. Hopefully I don't do any more as we go. All right, here we go.
Something's right in the world today, and everybody knows it's wrong.
So he's quoting Aerosmith. Could do worse, I suppose. Did everyone hear that? Let me know. Non-Vitae Rex, hello. Assassin of the Gray, hello. Sounds good, Ex-Bubba Hotep says. I assume that means everyone else hears it too. So in the absence of any negatives, here we go.
What I'm going to talk about here is something that I started thinking about at least in 2005. It all began at lunch one day when I showed up and was talking with my major advisor at the time, who asked me the question, what do you want to study? And my answer looked a little like this.
A little like what? Are you going to show us? Kurt Love. I can only imagine he was not made fun of at all in the growing up of his life. Kurt Love. Please tell me he's a doctor. Oh, please tell me he's a doctor. Because wouldn't it just be sweet if he was Dr. Love? Oh.
And
you're not going to show us the slide. The key to his joke, and you're not going to show us the slide. Oh, all right. Your choice.
Sort of went, whoa, okay, I can see in his face there's a problem here, right? Exit, timeout.
What are we supposed to be looking at?
There are things up here, obviously, that are more recent than 2005, but...
What are we supposed to... All right.
This is sort of what every major advisor kind of goes through with one of their students that says, well, that's too much, right? And I thought to myself,
all right. I'm going to freeze it there on the off chance they pan away again. Is there a root cause for all of these? White supremacy, garbage patches, racism, climate change, sixth extinction. I'm having a hard time reading the text. Poverty, hashtag me too. Wait, Wait. 2005, you say. Hashtag Me Too didn't come about until, 2017? I think you might be jumbling up your memories. Capitalism, heteropatriarchy. Yeah, all right. Well, I think we get the picture, such as it is.
I've been thinking to myself for all these years, which is, I don't think it's too much.
Takata says, if this accent continues, I'm going to go. What accent? Is it really that bad? I made a promise last night on Lords of the Night that, given the date, if you look at the date, I would do something special for this particular broadcast. Well, all right, I had one request from a girl. So maybe I'm just a soft touch. What can I tell you? Point Curation says, the accent is just giving him the vapors. Oh, the vapors. All right. I'll negotiate. If it's that bad, if it really is that bad, I will cease. But I need a consensus from the audience. 1, if you don't mind. 2, if I should just stop. 1, if you don't mind. 2, if I should stop. I will accede to the audience request. 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. I'm afraid, Tarkata, you are in the minority. I apologize if this grates your nerves, but it's a diversion on this special day of all days. We'll see if I can maintain it. Is really the question. Moving on.
I think what's needed is to see them all together. And I've been asking this question of, is there a root cause for all of these? And I think if we ask that question, we actually may have the benefit of understanding how to work with them a little bit differently.
A root cause to Black Lives Matter: racism, heteropatriarchy, white supremacy, garbage patches. All right. Capitalism, hashtag enough. I can see now. Hashtag me too. Homophobia. All right. I saw that one. Religionism. I can't read that. All right. Is there a root cause for all of those things? People. I'm going to guess people. In the absence of human beings, none of those concepts would exist. Whether they're legitimate or conjured out of nothing into existence. I'm going to say human beings. Am I right?
There's a different context when you see them all together rather than separately.
Oh, is this intersectionality? Oh, are we going down the intersectional route? Please do tell me this is intersectionality.
Okay.
Oh, well, that is one of the 7 deadly sins. Oh, I can read the other ones now. Affluenza, colonialism, neoliberalism, narcissistic consumerism, climate change. All right, greed, you say.
And the easy answer is greed, right?
Right.
This is not some sort of sociological genius standing before you.
Oh, I had no illusions of that. I assure you.
This is a person with great hair. Just want to make sure we're all there. Right? But everybody would seemingly get to this answer. And what's fascinating to me is I get that answer too, but it seems to be ignored.
Ignored or simply not reached because no one else is going to come to that conclusion. Greed. Greed. Well, all right, I'll take it on its merits. Affluenza. Might be entitlement more than greed. Capitalism, certainly. Greed is good. Sixth extinction. Greed and a sixth extinction. Neoliberalism, greed. garbage patches, greed. Hetero. I obviously misread that. Heteronormativity. Oh, I thought it said heteropatriarchy. My mistake. Heteronormativity is about greed. It's not about statistical norms. It's about greed. All right. White supremacy, greed. An argument could be made that everything in human existence is motivated by greed or self-interest. So I guess he's not technically wrong, which I suppose might be enough for him. I don't know.
Right. I hear words like, or phrases like political economy, and I get a little, right? It's sort of, what are you talking about here, right?
I don't know. Political economy. You didn't mention that, and what does that have to do with anything? What?
Not that that's not true, but it doesn't seem to get to it. Now, let me show you what happens when you apply greed to the question, a very common question of what is social justice.
Applying greed to the question of social justice. Well, I would say the modern implementation of what is classified as social justice is a power play. It is a power play over ideas and the ability to dominate conversations and have your ideology supersede all others. And thus, after a fashion, social justice is, like so many other things, based on greed. Greed for control, greed for power. So that would be my argument.
Okay. We have a limited view, I think, of what we mean by social justice. We have a view that sometimes stays in the realm of fairness and equity, and I think, of course, it's important. I agree with that. I would.
Fairness and equity is important. I sense a but is coming.
Never disagree with that. But I think when we only stay there, we miss some real important points, okay? In our society, when somebody advances in the US or in Europe, when they advance, you actually become more of a, I hate to say this, but you become more of an oppressor. And
if anyone advances in the US or Europe, you become more of an oppressor. Now, I'd be curious to know what he means by advancement, like personal advancement, like I get an education or I get a good job, my income increases, or I get a better house or something. Or are you talking about advancement as far as a general technological capability or industrial capability? Specifically the US and Europe? No other countries become oppressors by quote unquote advancing? All right.
And you would not get that view standing in the US or standing in Europe. You would only get that view if you sort of backed out, if you reframed your frame of reference. If you looked at it globally, you kind of go, oh yeah, forgot about that part.
So you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, a country that is not as, say, advanced economically, politically, industrially as the United States or Europe would look upon the United States and or Europe as oppressors. Well, I suppose depending on what actions are being taken by the US or Europe upon said other country, that could be the case, literally or figuratively. Or it could be jealousy to a certain extent. They have what we do not, therefore they're evil because they can do things we can't. Or could be a combination of the two, depending on the circumstances. That would be my reflex, but we'll see.
So a fuller view of social justice, if we were really paying attention to it, would look a little more something like this, which is that when you go from having been a have-not to a have, you do that on the backs of others constantly without maybe even seeing that. And that's not to say we're bad people, but
no. It's not to say we're bad people. It's just that we're benefiting from an evil system, right? So obviously the solution is don't advance. Stay completely sedentary. Do not try to better your situation, even if you're in the worst possible of situations. Just stay advanced, because no matter how far you advance, if you go from the lowest tax bracket, you can imagine, if you go from homeless to having a ratty studio apartment, if you have advanced at all, it's on the backs of others. And you are participating in an evil system. Even if you went from a tent to a roof over your head, and that's it, you have participated in evil. Any advancement, apparently, is bad. Or am I missing something?
But the fact that we keep missing that is really important.
We're not missing it. You're telling us that we don't know we're doing it. So you're the enlightened one. Well, tell me, how is it that someone can go from a tent outside to a ratty studio apartment, have advanced themselves, their own efforts of just taking advantage of social programs, let's say, and then they are thus working on the backs of others and taking advantage of other people? I mean, they're being an actual active detriment to other people in the process of having a better situation for themselves. I don't see how that is taking advantage of anyone necessarily, unless you're talking about like maybe the taxpayer, but then that's what tax money is for, right? So you need to tell us, because you're the enlightened one. The rest of us are just blind to this evil that we're contributing to. All right.
Because in our society, to advance, right, and to now to sort of apply the word greed to this a bit more, it becomes a little bit unsteady. There's something else going on here, and we need to attend to that.
No. All right. You're the one saying that to advance oneself is based on greed, not on self-interest, which all of us have instinctually, but on greed, on for desiring and trying to acquire things that we don't actually need, overabundance of what we actually acquire. A knowledgeable and conscious act of selfishness. You are classifying self-advancement as greed. And you haven't specified if you're talking about nations or simply individuals, but just advancement. If you advance yourself, you're taking part. You've done that. A sin is fueling this. That's how you are classifying it. You are vilifying anyone who advances themselves. All right. I just want to make sure I'm on the same page with our enlightened speaker.
There's no way that we can say that social justice is attained whenever there's a system of human or environmental exploitation connected to it.
You're right. No one who has ever adhered to the social justice credo has ever taken advantage of anyone else at all. They don't play on their smartphones and tweet out their activism or anything on the backs of Chinese laborers and sweatshops anywhere. No, not at all. You're right. Social justice is pure, absolutely pure of any fault.
That's not something that we can say is social justice. Somebody can advance in our society, yes. Somebody can have more opportunities, yes, true. But it always comes at a cost because our society is hugely exploitive to the rest of the world. We're on that train, so we have to pay attention to the train itself.
Yes, all other societies on the planet are totally and absolutely pure. Absolutely. They take no advantage of anyone else within their own country or otherwise. They do not exploit their own natural resources. They don't take advantage of other people, exploit their own citizens. No, that never happens. Only in the U.S., only in the westernized world. Only. Ever. Forever.
And this is sort of like I said, it's a frame of reference movement. This is what happened in science when you go from Newton to Einstein. You go from the Earth to the universe. And I think we need to have that frame of reference when we're talking about these things. It's not just equity for me, equity for you. It's equity for all of us.
There is no equity for all of us. I hate to tell you this. It is absolutely true. Life is not fair. There will always be disparities from nation to nation, from individual to individual. No one will ever have everything that everyone else has, either based on circumstance, personal merit, acts of God. Not going to happen, ever. Hasn't happened at any point in human history, will not happen at any point in the future. And if you think it will, you're an idiot. If you think it should, you might be an idealist. And that's fine. But that idealism needs to be tempered by a little bit of rationale. So please do tell me that you have a modicum of rationale.
And we keep missing that all of us part. So therefore, and I'm going to say this, and you can see that, I don't think that it's okay for us to say that we have social justice in our society.
Oh, all right. So anyone who proclaims to be working for social justice is skating uphill? Or are you saying that anyone who says that they are practicing social justice themselves or in their community, they're not actually practicing social justice? Is this a no true Scotsman pathway we're on?
I think we actually have to say it's not attainable in our society because of the impact that it then ends up having.
So social justice initiatives and efforts should just end because it's futile? I can't say I disagree with the notion.
And I think we have to kind of sit and be with that, right?
Right.
That's an important paradigmatic shift. There's something out of that that will really occur, I think, if we take that seriously.
Paradigmatic shift. Wow, I can't say I've heard that much corporate speak in one sentence since the last TEDx talk I did.
If you haven't figured this one out yet, you can save the world with flowcharts. Yes, you can. Okay. As I was thinking about this and thinking about how if you put greed at the very beginning of this conversation, you actually start to see how things are connected. And if nothing else happens from this craziness, and I do mean, craziness.
Well, now I'm glad that you had the self-awareness to put that joke up there, because it does sound a little conspiratorial. And I always thought it was money is the root of all evil. But what do I know?
You start to see how things are connected. So here's just how I've sort of situated things together, and others.
Why do you need to tell us his name again? We already know his name. Why are you telling us his name again? All right.
Might see it differently, which is absolutely 100% fair. All the way on the left is one major branch is patriarchy. So why patriarchy? Greed has been situated in sort of a global fashion with white, straight, cis men.
Yes, the total and absolute incarnation of all that is evil and bad in the world. White, straight, cis men. Got it.
They've been funneling the money in their direction for hundreds of years.
Yes, all white, straight, cis men have money. And they control all of the money. Got it.
Not longer. Okay? Not to say that other people haven't tried, they just haven't done it as well.
Right. So anyone who isn't a white, straight, cis male is terrible with money. Always and forever. And white, straight, cis men are naturally inclined to be talented with money. If you say so. So I suppose then that you are a millionaire of some stripe?
Right. That's an important thing to understand. Where did patriarchy come from? It comes from this impetus, from this motivation to funnel the money towards white, straight, cis men.
Right. So any man who is not white, straight, and cis cannot participate in or rule over, in either a small or large fashion, a patriarchy. There are no patriarchies in poor communities or poor countries, non-white poor countries. Patriarchy does not and has never existed anywhere except in rich, white, straight, cis, male dominated communities. All right.
Cis, not trans, right? If you're not familiar with that term.
What? I have to back up. What was that? Let's try that again.
Cis, not trans, right? If you're not familiar with that term.
Cis, not trans. All right. So if you have a white, straight, trans male, then they are not good with money, or they have no money, I guess. So Bruce Jenner has no money, I suppose. All right.
That's key. Knock women out. Knock out people who are trans. Knock out people who are gay, lesbian, and so forth. Right?
Well, are you advocating for violence against women and trans people? You want to knock them out? My God.
That is the idea. Knock them out so the money comes towards me.
He's letting us in on his plans, everyone.
On the left side there, you also have to be careful with this one. We know through history, religion has supported this. There's been moral codes that have supported slavery. That's not okay.
Hey, you're right. It's not okay. It's true. Most of the Abrahamic religions either lifted up or authorized slavery of some kind. It's true. It's not okay. Correct. I'm glad we agree on something.
You have to be on the lookout for that constantly.
You have to be on the lookout for what? Slavery or religion? Because there's a whole several hundreds of millions of people who might disagree with you on the second one there.
The middle branch, colonization. Colonization is really about taking resources and taking the people away from resources and shifting their mindset so you can take their resources.
Yes. Yes. All right. Fine.
It's still a greed thing.
Yes, I suppose. And of course, the only institutions that have ever participated in colonization have been white, straight, cis men controlled nations or organizations. It's never occurred anywhere else, by anyone else, at any other point in history, for any other reason, I suppose.
And one of the ways, this is not the entirety, but I think it's important to understand that when we talk about racism, racism is grounded in greed, even today.
Even today?
It was grounded in greed then, and it's still grounded in greed today.
Okay. Again, if you're equating, and I could see the argument of equating greed with the want of power, then sure. Greed fuels racism. I'll grant you that. Stipulated. All right.
It's about knocking people out so the money keeps coming in my direction.
Money. So is it greed is the root of all these evils, or is it money? Because you've mentioned money twice now, but greed can involve money, but it's not inherently about money. All right.
That doesn't mean it's the totality of racism, but it's certainly a major part of it. And I think it shifts how we think about things when we really bring it to that level.
Yeah, no one has ever thought of racism as a power play. It's never happened before. You are at the top of the mountain of enlightenment on this subject. All right.
In today's world, we have shifted from plantation-style slavery to globalization slavery.
Really? Globalization slavery. So people are still not getting paychecks and they're being held in chains all around the world? Is that it?
It's still going on, folks, right? 12 cents an hour is no different than 0 cents an hour. I mean, let's be real.
12 cents an hour. Oh, are you talking about those Chinese sweatshops where iPhones are created? And I'm sure you don't own an iPhone or some other device thereof. You're not participating in this horrible system, of course, even though you are a white male. I couldn't possibly guess at the rest of it.
Okay, you can't justify that.
You can justify that if you run a country that is a totalitarian regime that doesn't care about workers' rights or the well-being of your citizens. You can justify all sorts of things depending on the ideology that you guide yourself by, whether it be religion or political.
And in today's world, you're going to see in a second, but all of this industrialization, which has been attached to greed as well, Karl Marx must be really happy right now.
Oh, Karl Marx is ecstatic. Have you seen the Bernie Bros?
It's resulted in lots of pollution going into the atmosphere, as we all well know.
Yes, and industrialism and pollution only take place in the United States and Europe. It doesn't happen in China, doesn't happen in Africa, doesn't happen anywhere else in the world, India, elsewise. Nope, it's only America and Europe. Industrialization creates pollution only here.
So as a symptom of greed, global warming exists. And we don't see that connection. And that's crucial at this point in time. We need to see that connection, right?
Global warming exists because of greed. All right. Now, if a nation, take any nation that comes upon the process of industrialization, going from the low end of the economic spectrum to the higher end of the economic spectrum on the basis of industrializing goods and services and process and all that. They have decided to advance. They have taken the initiative and the opportunity to make the situation better for their nation and their people. Now, there are responsible ways of doing that, sure. There are irresponsible ways of doing that. And then there's just blandly ignorant ways of doing that. But the intention is to make better lives and a better situation for you and your people. Now, depending on where the power is situated in said country or whatever, it is likely that most of the wealth generated from industrialization will go to a very select few. And the rest will just have to beg and hope to get an opportunity. That's true. That's not a new story. But in and of itself, trying to better your situation is not a sin. You keep calling it greed. If any effort to make a better life for yourself or your family or whatever else is going to be classified as greed, classified as something that is inherently bad, well, what do you expect to have happen? What is the solution to that? Going from wooden tools to stone tools is apparently a sin and should never have happened because it's on the back of other people. Or am I missing something?
Right. And I want to add this too, because this is, of course, is what we're experiencing at the moment, which is this tricking of poor and working class white men.
Wait, tricking poor and working class white men? But I thought white, straight, cis men were the masters of the universe. They're the ones in control of all the money. How can there be poor white men? I must be missing something.
That they see themselves somehow as different than everybody else who's suffering, and that they're going to speak out and they're going to aim their anger and energies in this sort of white nationalist fashion, as if somehow the billionaires are closer to them than they are to the people they're standing side by side with, suffering in the same exact way, or close to the same exact way.
Yes, all white men are evil. No matter what their class station, no matter what their circumstances, they all think the same way. They all see themselves on the same level as billionaires. And they're all evil. They think of themselves as special. Why would they think of themselves as special? Just because earlier in your own talk, you said that white, straight, cis men are all the ones in control of the money. So are they all in control of the money or aren't they? If someone earns their own money, even if that amount of money is just beyond comprehension, someone becomes a billionaire. Is billionaire now another word for greed in and of itself? What would you have them do? Would you have no white men strive for that kind of success? Or even a fraction of that success? Right? Most of us don't necessarily think that we're going to become billionaires. But is it inherently wrong to think that for a moment, that through my effort, through my ideas, my innovation, whatever, regardless of your race or your gender, that perhaps if someone can achieve that amount of success, it's not impossible for someone else to do so. And if I can achieve even a tiny fraction of a billionaire's success, should I just preclude myself from even attempting it because I'm a white man? What exactly is the message here? Because the message I'm getting here is to not try, not work hard, be sedentary, take what you're given, and not ask for more. Or, again, am I missing something?
That's crucial. That's hugely missed. The other part here is this thing called hegemony, and I know that's a very academic word at this point, but...
Oh, you're right. I mean, don't get academic on us. Just dumb it down a bit more. We can't handle academia here.
What does it really mean? It means that people who are being oppressed stand with that oppression. They participate in the oppression that's hurting themselves.
Right. So in order to oppose the oppression that you've spelled out, the best way to do that is to not try. To not try to advance ourselves. Because then we're participating in oppression by trying to better our situations. So don't do anything. Don't try to rise above your situation, because only equality, literal equality, will bring about world peace. So yes, thank you for avoiding academia. Please keep dumbing it down, because the only way that we will survive all of this is through the lowest common denominator.
And that's really key for us to understand, because that is us. And we have to see that. What narratives are we buying into that's keeping this whole entire structure going?
No, I don't know. Do tell.
What narratives and practices do we engage in that keeps the money still funneled towards the people who already have the money?
I don't know. Do tell.
That's what that's about right there.
That's what's about. All right.
You know, going back to the oligarchs, if the peasantry didn't stand in sort of a docile, controlled manner,
like not trying to advance themselves, like not participating in industry, like not imagining that they might be able to succeed beyond the means that they were given when they were born, that kind of docile behavior,
there would be no royalty. There would be no kings or queens. But they believed, because they were told to believe, and they told each other to believe, that the kings and queens were divine.
And how has that mindset lasted? Has that aged well into the modern day? Has it?
That's hegemony, right? What narratives do we have today? And of course, there's a long discussion about that, but that's key.
Is that a long discussion you're going to have with us, or are you just going to assume that we just nod and smile and agree that it's a thing all by itself in the 21st century?
There's this political collusion piece, and there's a power piece.
Yes, politics, greed didn't already tell us something about power being involved in this. I can see the light now. Oh, do tell. Greed, politics, power? No. Really? You don't say.
Right. That is key as well.
What isn't key? Please, I'm curious to know what is not key in this goblin. Look at that diagram. I mean, please just take a moment. If you're not looking at the video directly because it's kind of like a podcast, fine. But look at this picture just for a moment. Look at that diagram. That spaghetti. What isn't key? What is not key to your conspiracy theory here? I'd be very curious to know.
Governance is designed with that funneling in mind.
Tailed feature, I take exception to that accusation. I was doing this accent for years before Kevin Spacey even heard of House of Cards. He stole it from me. Now, well, all right, confession. I based this accent off of Kevin Spacey's character in the Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Okay, so Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. So it was Kevin Spacey. It wasn't Frank Underwood. He just copied his own accent from something he did years prior. That's all. Yeah, and I know the U.S. House of Cards, the original House of Cards, is the superior show. I will never argue otherwise. U.S. House of Cards was absolute garbage after about season 2. Francis Urquhart, the Frank Underwood, was practically, omniscient in the original House of Cards. Frank Underwood, he gets hijacked and ambushed by his own wife in that show. It's ridiculous. It's embarrassing. Anyway, thank you for interrupting me. I'd say something in Gaelic now, but I still haven't learned it.
And it's, like I said before, it's had this impact. It's had this filling up of the atmosphere with this toxin that we know has trouble. So there's big greed, there's little greed.
Whoa. All right, back up. Big greed from globally dominant white cis straight men created patriarchy, sexism, heterosexism, genderism, religionism, colonization, racism, slavery, Eurocentrism, classism, wealth inequality, and anthropocentrism. I thought we were going to avoid academia here.
There's little greed.
Little greed from the hegemonic players, ... that's most of us, consumerism, techno addictions, aiming for affluence, meritocracy, narcissism, overinflated sense of self-importance, consumo narcissism, rugged individualism. All right, remember everyone, meritocracy is little greed.
And we have to see our part in it. There is no path to sustainability if we don't work with this greed piece.
All right, go back to Gordon Gekko. Go back to Wall Street. Greed is good. Greed is right. If you look at greed as the inherent instinct of human beings to try to better themselves, to try to attain safety in either resources or friends and allies and whatever, greed motivates us to do things to better ourselves. Now, does greed inherently mean selfishness? Well, on the scale of sins, sure. But you have to ask yourself, what is greed and what is simply trying to improve your situation? If you're lost out in the forest, you have only a jacket on your back, a pocket knife, and a granola bar. Is it greedy to take the time to set up a shelter? Would a tree have to fall down for you to use its branches to create a shelter so that you survive? Perhaps so. Is that greed? Well, you've damaged the environment. You've taken something that was not yours in order to better your situation. Is that greed? Would we look down upon anyone for taking such actions? Do we inherently look down upon anyone trying to better their situation? Is that greed? Is that a sin? Because that's what this man apparently is telling me that I'm doing by working every day and saving my money. I'm being greedy. I'm hurting people. I'm taking advantage of people somehow by earning a living and saving for the future. Apparently.
And just to take a note from Martin Luther King.
Of course, yes. Anoint yourself with purity by quoting Dr. King. It's very easy to do. It almost seems like it means something, except it doesn't.
Those who love peace must learn to organize as effectively as those who love war.
But I thought that social justice was impossible in this country. So why even bother?
That's what we're talking about today. You can take the words peace and war and put in different, right? But that's what we're doing right now. So
we're doing what right now? Peace and war at the same time? Interesting. Do tell.
You have to see, what is it that we can actually do? What's the path forward look like?
Solidarity. Does solidarity mean no self-advancement? Because that's what it sounded like you were telling us.
I'm starting with the word solidarity here. And by solidarity, what I mean is equal membership. Whether I give it to you or not, I'm acting with that in mind.
What if your mind is not my mind? What if your sense of what you need and what you want is not my sense of what I need and what I want? Why should I bow down to your oppression?
I don't have to give it to you. If I do give it to you, I have the power.
I don't want you giving me nothing. I'll just say this right now. You are not going to give it to me, whatever it is.
There is nobody in power when there's true solidarity going on.
That is absolute nonsense. No power